So in this one, we're going to talk mostly about the hands that we are opening and how we can change that based on different openings that we have, and then how we need to defend when someone free bets us. Do we want to call or four bet, and how to play our overall range. So this is going to be the topic of today, and after that we're going to jump into next videos about free betting and blind defense ranges much more. So today I want to just jump and start with that. So we're going to jump into our Poker Equilab. I have already made a folder for that. So we're just going up and save the ranges that I would suggest you to open. So firstly, in early position, we really should not be looking to open too many hands, because if we do so, we're going to encounter a problem by playing too many hands, and it would be basically close to impossible for us to defend effectively versus that. So really, sticking to a tighter side is the correct play here, even though it could look for you a little bit too tight. But if your competition is tough, oh, I didn't click the Ace-Jack here. Of course, Ace-Jack is in our opening range as a standard for sure. But what I wanted to say is, if our competition is tough, we have a lot of problems opening too many hands in early positions, because then we will not be able to defend effectively versus free bets, and that is not something we should be doing. So generally, if we want to play a GTO range, and GTO is game theory optimal, I assume you already know that. If not, then I've just told what it means. It means the range that we can defend enough versus anyone, and this range could be open versus any player in the world, I would say, and any stake you are playing. It doesn't matter. You are going to be playing very good with this range, and no one can exploit you by doing anything here. So I'm just want to say, firstly, this is us early position open. Oh, sorry, caps locks. Early position open. And then, of course, we can open wider in certain spots. And the spots is when we do have a weaker player in the big blind. This is our main goal, to be looking when deciding what to open, what kind of player we have in the blinds, and especially in the big blind. Since if we have a recreational player there, he's going to tend to call too much, and we can play more hands versus him because we be in position against weak player, and of course this is a spot that we really want to be in most. So we can then open any suited ace, any pair, few more suited hands, and even hands like Jack 9 and 10-8 suited can easily be open. Now another hand that I would consider opening versus weak player is King Jack of suit as well, because then you will have a ton more hands to play versus him, and that is going to be okay because he's going to call you with a lot of hands that you actually dominate, and your range is going to play out very decently in that kind of spot. So always keep in mind that when you have a weak player in the big blind, you need to open more than generally, because this is just where you make money here. So I will write the name here, weak big blind. Yeah. So, and this is always going to be the case. We're going to have few different ranges that we are opening. I mean, two different ranges in every single position. The one that is GTO, that you can use against anyone, and by that I mean against strong regulars in your games, against players that you have no information about. Maybe you're playing anonymous tables and as well have no idea who you're playing against, then these ranges are good. But if you know that you have weaker players on a table, if you know that especially big blind is weaker player, then opening more is definitely okay. And this is something you should be doing, and this is how you should be changing your ranges here for sure. And taking that in consideration is going to be a big deal. So keep that in mind, and always first look in the big blind when deciding which hands to open or not. And same goes from all positions here. And now when we know how we're structuring our opening hands and how we're changing that, we want to know how we're defending versus free bets. And of course, we're going to defend a little bit differently facing a free bet from player who are in position and against the blinds. So against the blinds, it's going to be the way that we can defend more hands by calling, because we are in position, and it's much more beneficial for us, and it is much easier to realize our equity. So in this spot, we're going to call ace queen suited, ace jack suited, even ace 10 suited is going to be decent hand to call with. We're going to call quite some reasonable hands here, the hands that has decent equity and can win us huge pots if improved. So these are the hands that we can easily defend versus blinds free bet. So I will name it early position call versus blinds free bet. I guess the name is self-explanatory, of course. Maybe you're not used to see ace king offsuit here, but it's definitely a mistake to try to stack off ace king versus early position. Well, maybe in itself is not a mistake, but in general it plays much better as a call and you have much more EV in the long run. So this is something that you should be looking to, even though you know that you could theoretically stack off here. But for betting ace king is not good because you really make your opponent fold all his bluffs and all his weak hands and continue just with a strong range, and that sucks. It's much better to call instead of that and then keep all his bluffs in his range, all his weaker ace-x, weaker king-x hands, and that way you're going to win much more money when you hit something, and just not by making him fold all the bluffs here for sure. So this is pretty clear that are the hands we are defending versus free bet from the blinds. But what about free bets from middle position, from cutoff or on the button? If we face a free bet from these, we are not able to defend that wide. Because then we will be out of position and we are not going to realize our equity so easily. So hands like that going to go off right now, and even sevens and these suited hand that looks pretty, but they just are not going to play very well out of position in this kind of spots in free bet pot. So folding that is okay. You do not need to defend too much here. And if you are structuring correctly your opening ranges, that is going to be enough of the hands that you're defending, because we're going to add four bets as well, and that is going to be enough to make your to not give opportunity to your opponent to free bet anything versus you. I mean, to free bet very light and exploit you, because he will not be able to exploit you because you know how to defend and will be doing that very effectively. So I'm going to change the name and save this as well. This is early position call versus in position free bet. So it doesn't matter which player free bets you here. It doesn't matter either free bet comes from cutoff or from the button. You are just playing your range and you're defending the same hands versus these. So that's why the name is versus early in position free bets, because against all of these positions you are playing the same. So what about four bet range right now here? So of course, when we are playing against the blinds, well, firstly, our wallet range is the same here, like always. As you see, we have 1.2% wallet hands. Then we want to have some good bluffs, and the best bluffs here would be ones with blockers. So ace queen is by far the best hand for that. It blocks aces, ace king, queens, ace queens that he would have in his range. So we block a ton of valor hands. It means he could have less valor hands mostly, and his range going to be weaker. So these are the hands that we really want to use as a bluff. Now, when you're facing a free bet from the blinds, we are calling with these hands, so we cannot use this as 4-bet bluff, and we still need to have at least a combo of one more hand into our bluffing range to balance this out. And I would choose king jack suited, because again it does have blockers here, and it's really good because you block again kings, jacks, ace king, maybe even ace jack suited, and he's again less likely to have this hand. So calling this is going to be okay, because we cannot use anything with an ace since we already having these in our calling range, and using hand like that would not be as great since king jack is pretty decent blocker as well. So this is going to be early position. Okay, this is going to be early position 4-bet versus blinds free bet, and this is a hand that we are defending, and again this is very effectively. As you see, we have total 2.4%, and if we remove bluffs, we have 1.2. It means we have 50% of our hands on bluffs. That is pretty decent to have. And generally, this is a GTO range again that you could be playing against strong players, unknown players, and we have no information about their tendencies. But if you have some, you can adjust these ranges, of course. If you know that your opponent is free betting like 1%, you should not be bluffing versus him and then just sticking to a valor range like that and calling everything else. And the same logic goes in every position like this. We're going to cover GTO ranges, how to balance this out, how to play very effectively if you have no information about your opponents. But if you have some, you need to make adjustments. So if you know he's not free betting as a bluff much, then four bet just valor hands, because you are very likely to get him in with a strong range yourself and call more. If the case that you know that your opponent is free betting way too much, then you can 4-bet as a bluff much more and not trying to keep your ranges balanced. And that is just the way to go with it. So jumping back to our discussion here now, when we face a free bet from imposition players, we're going to use ace jack as a bluff, since we are not calling that, and we can use this hand, and it has a little bit better blockers because of an ace. So that is going to be a big change here, and a good one, versus imposition free bet. So this is everything that you need to know about early position. It's not so hard to implement that when you actually understand it and have the correct information. So I'm giving that to you right now. Your only job is to implement that, and if you will be able to do that effectively, you will really gain a big edge over your competition, and you will be pretty happy with that lines for sure.